Alright, this is Kid Dracula for the Game Boy. Let's get into it. But first things first, let's punch in a little bit on the video, get the gameplay as large as possible on the screen. I did want to give you a moment to appreciate that Super Game Boy bezel in its full before we punched in, so there you go. This game originally released in Japan on the Famicom in 1990. It was not released in North America on the NES. So for the first few years, this was a Japanese exclusive. That is until 1993, when it was released on the Game Boy worldwide. The game is published and developed by Konami. It's sort of a spin-off of the Castlevania series. Apparently there's some small relation to Castlevania, but basically it plays like a cutesy Castlevania game, sort of. You're playing as a vampire kid, so right away you're not playing as a vampire hunter, but you are fighting other enemies that are like demons and zombies and, you know, Frankenstein's monster kind of looking things. So kind of looks like a cutesy Castlevania game. It kind of plays a little bit like a Castlevania game or a Mega Man game in a way. You get new power-ups, you get new attacks and new abilities as you go throughout the game. Basically every level you beat, you're going to gain a new ability. It might be an attack or some other ability like being able to fly or walk on the walls or the roof. And yeah, so kind of like Mega Man, but not really. I mean, you can't pick the levels that you go through, although there is a little map as you progress through the game. Again, more like a Castlevania game. It's linear. You can't pick the levels that you want to play. So yeah, kind of plays like a Castlevania game. It is kind of a Castlevania spin-off, somehow related to the Castlevania lore, but not really. Kind of its own game. First of all, the graphics look amazing on the Game Boy. And the controls and everything is really good. There's very little slowdown for a Game Boy game, considering how large the sprites are. So the game looks and plays great. Obviously on the Game Boy, you only have 2 buttons, so the controls are a little weird. Of course, I didn't have the manual, so you know, just picking this up and playing it for the first time. Certain things you gotta learn pretty much right away. And the first is that holding down B, let me get this right. Yeah, B is attack, A is jump. Again, there's only 2 action buttons on a Game Boy. But holding down B will charge your weapon if you're on like normal or one of your attacks. If you're on an ability, it activates an ability, which is a little weird. You hit select to change between normal or one of your special attacks or one of your abilities, but because B charges it up, it's kind of weird. If you're on an attack, then that makes sense. B's charging up an attack. But if you're on an ability, like bat to fly, or the roof ceiling to walk on the ceiling, then you're holding down B to activate that, which is a little weird, because now B, just pressing B is your normal attack, but holding B will activate your ability. killing the enemies, you always want to try and kill the enemies with one of your special attacks, because that will get you a coin. And the coins can buy you little bonus games in between each level, where you can like rank up more lives, which I'm assuming you're probably going to need, especially if you're playing this on an original Game Boy. Some of the levels in this game do get pretty intense. It's not a super difficult game, but it's not an easy game either. Don't let the, cutesy graphics fool you. It's not like a kid's game per se. It's not a super easy game. Although again, it's not super difficult. There are some levels where, there was one level where I was like, you had to jump up this like tube as like platforms were coming down. And yeah, on an original Game Boy with the little screen, that could be kind of tricky. So you do want to, farm those coins to play more bonus games to get as many lives as you can. Although the game does have a password system, I've never used it. To be honest, I'm playing this on an emulator, well, as you can probably tell, with the Super Game Boy bezel ROM hack, because this game didn't originally have any Super Game Boy support, so this is a modern ROM hack that adds the Super Game Boy bezel, and then I'm playing that on an emulator. But because I'm playing it on an emulator, yeah, I've got save states, so I really wasn't too worried about the password system. So I'm not 100% sure how the password system works. Does it remember how many lives and coins you have? Or is it like it'll remember what level you're on, but you'd be starting that level with like 3 lives? I'm not sure. I mean, ideally, I would hope it remembers how many lives you have and how many coins you have, but for a simple password system, I'm not really sure. Anyways, this game is fun. Again, it's new to me. I've known about it for a few years on the Game Boy, but really this is the first time that I've played it, and I've never played the Famicom version, so that might be worth checking out as well. I would assume it looks similar, just with a larger field of view, of course, due to the higher resolution, playing on a TV with a larger screen. But on the Game Boy, it is a fun Game Boy game. It's definitely one worth checking out if you're into the Game Boy. Again, it's new to me, so all these years I've let this one pass me by, but it's very, very fun to play now. And again, I've never seen the Famicom version, so I'll probably have to check that out sometime. But yeah, super fun game. Cute graphics, nice large sprites. Kind of plays like a Castlevania game. With some neat abilities, like being able to walk on the ceiling. Anyways, this game was officially released, I guess maybe like an English Famicom version with the bigger field of view, in 2019 on the Castlevania Anniversary Collection. So this game, again, is considered, I guess, a part of the Castlevania series, at least enough so that Konami thought to put it on the Castlevania Anniversary Collection. So again, maybe another way to check it out, but I definitely want to check out the Famicom version, and I definitely recommend the Game Boy version if you're into the Game Boy. It's definitely a good, fun game to just pick up and play, with or without save states. Again, there is a password system, but I have not used it, and yeah, super sweet game, so check it out.